Hello all and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. Now we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to comment, share and like our video. While you are at it, hit the bell button so that you'll be alerted whenever we go live. I have my newsroom colleagues joining me to talk about the stories that got you talking today. Now first up, the prices of oil saw its biggest ever intraday jump yesterday after a strike on Saudi Arabian oil facility that cut about 5% of global supplies. The jump was to more than US $71 a barrel. Now, people familiar with the matter said Saudi Arabia can restart a significant volume of the halted oil production within days, but needs months to restore full output capacity. Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen claimed credit for the attack, but US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have already pointed the finger directly at Iran. Now, more importantly, how does this event affect Singapore? To tell us, I have business correspondent Xiao Bei. Welcome, Bei.
Hi.
Now, this is, I think, our fourth time, probably,
yes.
on Big Story.
That's right.
All right, now, Bei, first up, tell us, how does this disruption affect Singapore from a consumer's point of view?
Right, so for consumers at the moment, we might not see any immediate impact on the prices of goods, for example. But typically when there is a disruption to the global oil supply, we will see markets react and we will see the prices go up. So, I mean, this is considered the worst single attack on global supplies. Like you said, it took out about 5% worldwide. So if the disruption continues and if oil prices stay elevated for a long period of time, we might see an impact here in the terms of like higher inflation on consumer goods. So, for example, the prices of fuel could go up and consequently the prices of transport could go up here as well. And airlines among the companies who might see the operating costs go increase because the origins, the prices of the oil are higher than usual. For regular Singaporeans, this might come in the form of petroleum, which are refined products that we use. So what we have to bear in mind is that this might actually take a few months to kick in. And for now, I think we are expecting no short-term impact on the Singaporean consumer yet.
Right. And Abi, what is being done to manage this disrupted production? Some of the countries, I mean, they've stepped in as well to help out. So what are some measures that have already been in place to manage this situation?
Right. So I think now the company affected is expecting that this disruption could last for longer than expected. It might take months for output to recover.
Right.
And I think what is happening now is that Saudi Arabia itself, it has some inventory to fall back on. And it is also firing up some idle offshore oil fields to sort of cushion the impact for now. OPEC countries, they have said that they are ready to raise the output. And the US has also authorized the release of emergency reserves if needed. So I think this is part of the reason why experts are also not expecting the immediate impact to be so harsh, and that's why markets have calmed down somewhat today, even though prices are still higher than usual.
Of course, I mean, it seems that there is a concerted effort among the different countries to actually help with the situation and the oil production and supply here. And of course, this is one of the biggest, like we mentioned, right, attack. It affected almost 5% of global supply right here. What happens, say, if there is another supply disruption as such?
I think that's the question that is weighing on our minds. The vulnerability of the Saudi Arabian oil supply is, I think, one of the key factors that analysts have highlighted is keeping prices, is the reason that they expect prices to be kept a bit higher at the moment. So I think if there are further disruptions, hopefully not, we will likely see prices continue to stay up. And that is when the impact that I mentioned earlier on the consumer could kick in for Singaporeans. Hopefully it doesn't come to that stage. And I mean, at the moment, I think countries are still working to restore the supplies worldwide.
Right. Of course, like what Bei mentioned, things are still in its early stages. We still don't know what to expect, but these are what the analysts have basically forecast. So for more updates on this issue and of course the situation, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, thank you so much, Bei, for coming onto the show to tell us more about the situation here. Now, moving on to local news, it was a hazy start to the weekend here in Singapore. with the Pollutant Standards Index or PSI reading hitting the unhealthy range for the first time in 3 years. Now, fortunately, the situation has improved with the PSI reading within the moderate range. In a statement earlier today, the National Environment Agency or NEA said that government agencies are ready to tackle the impact of the haze. There are plans in place to allow tiered responses depending on the intensity of the haze. Now, to tell us more about the haze situation, I have environment correspondent Audrey Tan. Welcome, Audrey.
Hi, Haryanto.
And this is the first time we are doing TBS together.
First time to talk about haze.
Happy to have you on the set today. Now, tell us, Audrey, last year, Indonesia's Minister of National Development Planning, Bambang Brojonegoro, said that in the last few years, including 2018, we did not have the haze that happened in 2015, adding that forestry and peatland management plans have already been implemented. What happened? Why is the haze bad and why is it this bad this year?
Okay, so when we experience haze in Singapore, I think many people know that the root cause would be the forest fires in countries in the region. And in 2015, it was especially bad because of a weather phenomenon called El Nino, which kind of made the weather a lot hotter and drier than usual. So going back to the agroforestry practices in Indonesia, a lot of the concessions for palm oil, for acacia, which is grown for pulp and paper, they are grown on peat soil. But all these kind of crops, they don't do well on waterlogged soil, which is what peat is in its natural state. So farmers drain it. So when the land is when the land is drained, it makes it a lot more flammable. And to couple that, farmers often clear land by slash and burn tactics. So a confluence of factors in 2015 made the region suffer its worst haze episode on record. So since then, so in 2015, the Indonesian government, I think the World Bank estimated it cost Indonesia $16 billion US to combat the crisis. And in the aftermath of that, there has been a lot of work done by the Indonesian government and the companies there to kind of manage the situation. And to couple, alongside with that, the weather has also been on our side. So the weather has not been as hot and dry in 2015 as it has now. But the weather we're experiencing now is also hot and dry due to another kind of like climate development when the Eastern Indian Ocean off the west coast of Sumatra has a persistent cooler sea surface temperature. So that kind of prevents rain clouds from forming. So now we have hotter and drier weather again. So that is one of the reasons why the forest fires in Indonesia have surged. But on top of that, commentators that I've spoken to have attributed this to a few domestic factors in Indonesia as well. So one of the reasons would be the presidential election this year. So they say that this has kind of strained police and military resources in putting out the fires. I think it's a mix of factors.
So it's not only just weather factors. It seems that there's also, it's a whole string of other political factors as well, domestic affairs that have happened there. And the thing is, over the weekend, of course, and you wrote a story on this as well. Over the weekend, we saw the PSI reading hitting the unhealthy range, but the next day, the reading dropped to the moderate range. Why is this so? What causes the fluctuation? It could be hazy one day and then boom, the next day, or even within hours, it clears up. What's happening there? Can you tell us more about that?
So the main reason for this would be wind direction. So right now, based on satellite images, we know that there have been hotspots in Sumatra, which is located south of Singapore, and Kalimantan, which is to our southeast. So all the haze that we have been experiencing is actually due to the fires from Sumatra, South Sumatra in particular. So right now, Singapore is experiencing its southwest monsoon season, and during this season, NEA has said that we can expect winds from the south, southwest and southeast. So the haze that made our air quality levels dip into unhealthy levels was because winds from the south directly brought the smoke haze from the fires upwards.
To Singapore,
So on Sunday, we got some reprieve because the winds switched to southeast direction. So Kalimantan fires are in that direction, but it is unlikely that the fires there would affect us because it is too far away. And by the time the winds bring it to us, the air pollution would have kind of dispersed and diffused in all directions. So it leaves a very low concentration of particles left by the time the air parcel reaches us. So if, based on the hotspot locations, if most of them are still in South Sumatra and the winds come from the south, we can continue experiencing hazy conditions.
So it really boils down to wind direction. Right? Whether it's going to bring the haze or the effects of the smoke of the fire right upwards to us from the south. So, my next question to you is a visual check enough? Because often people just go like, look around, it's no haze, it's clear, everything, visibility is fine, therefore there is no haze. Is that it? Does it mean clear day equals to no haze?
No, so during periods of haze, the main pollutant particle would be tiny pollutant particles known as PM 2.5.
Okay.
So these particles are really small, and it's the reason why the authorities are recommending you wear N95 masks, because these are the masks that can filter out such small particles.
Right.
So on its own, you can't really see the level of pollution. So NEA has recommended that you use the 1 hour PM 2.5 readings to gauge whether you can go out. So sometimes the reason why you may see it's being super hazy out there and the PM 2.5 concentration levels are not elevated is because sometimes things like the amount of humidity in the air can affect the visibility.
Visibility, right.
Yes.
Right.
So a simple example would be sometimes if it's very humid and there are water vapor that are attracted to the water molecules that are attracted to the pollutant particles, it makes the whole particle bigger, and then light can disperse from it. So it makes it more visible to us. So the best gauge would be just to look at the NEA's 1 hour PM 2.5 readings.
Right. And not based on our own visual checks to say, it's clear, therefore it's not easy. So, having said all that, Audrey, is there something that can be done, to tackle this haze issue? I mean, of course, it is a yearly phenomenon, but there could be something that can be done, right?
Yeah, so I mean, as you pointed it out earlier, haze is a very multifaceted issue. There's a lot being done on the Indonesian government's perspective and also among the agroforestry companies there. But things that commentators have noted would be international players like Singapore. We also have a part to play because we should put our money where our mouth is.
Yep.
So the WWF Singapore has recommended that consumers can look for eco-labels on their products.
Okay.
So they have highlighted 3 that they say meet their definitions for sustainable guidelines. So that is the RSPO, FSC, and the Better Cotton Initiative, BCI. So I mean, consumers can look for all these eco-labels to kind of determine whether the products come from sustainable sources.
Okay. So basically the whole idea is to not support, in that sense, the others that are not sustainable as well, right, and are not eco-friendly in that way. Well, thank you so much, Audrey, for sharing with us Haze 101. Really, I think it's been informative with all the information that you've shared with us. For more, of course, you can read Audrey's articles on our website at www.straitstimes.com. Really, Audrey has covered extensively on the haze situation here in Singapore, and really to just refer back to whatever that she has mentioned earlier on with regard to the particle molecule, the PSI reading, anything that you want to know more about the haze, you can visit the website to read up on Audrey's article. So earlier on, we actually spoke to our business correspondent, Xiao Bei, to tell us more about the oil prices that have spiked after attack on Saudi Arabia oil facility, one of the biggest, if not the biggest facility that supply almost 5% of global supplies. And we also have Audrey, our environment correspondent, who spoke to us about haze and really tell us everything there is to know about the haze situation here in Singapore. So there you have it, our stories for the day. For more news and videos, of course, do log on to our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.